The danger of faking success. There's a phrase that has been repeated so often, it's stopped being questioned. Fake it until you make it. It sounds harmless, even motivating. But today, we're going to talk about why this phrase, this mindset, has quietly damaged ambition, distorted success, and placed people in dangerous circles they never intended to join. Because when you fake something long enough, you don't just fool others, you start fooling yourself. The original idea behind fake it until you make it wasn't about lying. It was about courage, about stepping into rooms you felt unqualified for, about confidence before comfort. But somewhere along the way, confidence turned into deception. Instead of believing in future growth, people began performing a future they hadn't earned yet. And the world we live in today, especially online, rewards performance. We see luxury before literacy, status before substance, visibility before value. So people fake success, hoping reality will catch up. But here's the truth. No one likes to say out loud. What you pretend to be determines who you attract. When you fake wealth, you don't attract wisdom. You attract people obsessed with appearance. When you fake power, you don't attract leaders. You attract people hungry to use you. And when you fake confidence, you don't attract peace. You attract constant pressure to maintain the illusion. Because illusions are expensive. They demand attention. They demand validation. They demand lies. And lies always attract other liars. Fake success doesn't build networks. It builds echo chambers. Rooms full of people pretending just as hard as you are, afraid to admit they don't know what they're doing yet. And that's where danger begins. People who haven't earned discipline don't respect boundaries. People who haven't earned money don't understand its weight. People who haven't earned influence don't understand responsibility. They spend recklessly. They speak carelessly. They move without consequences in mind. Not because they're evil, but because they're untrained. Think about this. Would you hand a powerful machine to someone who never learned control? Money is power. Status is power. Attention is power. And power without maturity doesn't elevate. It exposes. This is why fake success attracts newly rich people who are still unstable. People who equate worth with numbers, dominance with respect, and silence with weakness. They often become dishonest, not always intentionally, but because honesty threatens the image they're desperate to protect. And once image becomes survival, truth becomes optional. Real success moves differently. It's quiet. It's patient. It doesn't rush to be seen. Real success allows you to say, "I'm still learning," without shame. Because real confidence doesn't come from pretending. It comes from progress. In this series, we're going to explore why fake success attracts dangerous people, why money without maturity destroys character, and how to build real wealth without losing yourself. But it starts here, by rejecting the lie we were sold. You don't need to fake anything. You need to build. In the next episode, we'll dive into the psychology behind fake wealth, and why pretending feels powerful, even when it's slowly breaking you. The psychology of fake wealth. Why pretending feels powerful, but isn't. There is a reason pretending works, at least at first. If it didn't feel powerful, people wouldn't do it. Fake wealth doesn't start as deception. It starts as relief. Relief from feeling invisible. Relief from feeling behind. Relief from the quiet fear of not being enough yet. And in a world that rewards appearance, pretending feels like progress. The human brain is wired for recognition. We crave acknowledgement. We crave respect. We crave a sense of arrival. So when someone wears the right clothes, drives the right car, posts the right lifestyle, and suddenly gets treated differently, the brain makes a dangerous connection. This works. Not this is true. Not this is sustainable. Just, this works. Fake wealth gives people something intoxicating. Control over perception. And perception can feel like power. When people believe you're successful, they listen differently. They respond differently. They forgive flaws they wouldn't forgive in someone unknown. So the performance escalates. One upgrade becomes two. One lie becomes a pattern. One image becomes an identity. And now, you're no longer pretending to succeed. You're pretending to survive. Here's where it becomes dangerous. When your identity is built on image, truth becomes a threat. You can't admit confusion. You can't ask for help. You can't slow down. Because slowing down might expose what's real. This is why fake wealth often creates fragile personalities. They overreact to disrespect. They compete unnecessarily. They measure everything. people, conversations, friendships, by status. Because when your value comes from appearance, everything becomes a scoreboard. And someone always has more. Let's talk about validation addiction. Social approval releases dopamine, the same chemical involved in addiction. Likes, praise, attention, envy. They all feel like confirmation. So fake success doesn't just look good. It feels good. Until it doesn't. Because dopamine fades. And when it does, the mind demands more. More spending. More posting. More exaggeration. More distance from reality. This is how people end up wealthy in appearance and bankrupt in peace. They can't enjoy silence. They can't enjoy simplicity. They can't enjoy progress unless someone is watching. They are constantly performing, even when exhausted. But here's the truth. Most people don't realize until it's too late. Pretending delays learning. When you pretend to know, you stop growing. When you pretend to have, you stop preparing. When you pretend to be powerful, you stop becoming wise. And growth never happens in performance. It happens in humility. Real confidence doesn't need reinforcement. Real wealth doesn't need proof. Real power doesn't need an audience. That's why the most dangerous people in rooms are often the loudest. They're not trying to be seen. They're trying to be believed. In the next episode, we're going to talk about something even more serious. What happens when money arrives before maturity? Why newly rich people, without guidance, discipline, or self-awareness, often become reckless, dishonest, and destructive. Not because money changed them, but because it exposed what was already untrained. Until then, ask yourself one question. If no one was watching, who would you still be trying to become? Newly rich, newly lost, money. Without maturity, money is not dangerous. Unprepared people are. And when money arrives before maturity, it doesn't create chaos, it reveals it. There's a moment many people dream about. The first big check, the first breakthrough, the first time life suddenly feels easier. But what most people don't talk about is what happens after that moment. Because sudden access to money doesn't come with instructions. And without discipline, money becomes a magnifier. It magnifies habits. It magnifies character. It magnifies insecurity. If someone was reckless before money, they become reckless with resources. If someone was dishonest before money, they become strategic with lies. If someone was insecure before money, they become obsessed with dominance. Not intentionally, but inevitably. This is why newly rich people are often the most unstable people in a room. They've upgraded their lifestyle, but not their mindset. They know how to spend, but not how to sustain. They know how to show, but not how to steward. They know how to acquire, but not how to protect. So they move loudly. They overpromise. They overextend. They overestimate themselves. Because money arrived before wisdom did. Here's something rarely said out loud. Sudden money removes consequences. And consequences are what train character. When mistakes no longer hurt financially, people stop learning from them. When power removes accountability, people stop checking themselves. This is how dishonesty creeps in. Not always through greed, but through comfort. It becomes easy to bend truth when nothing pushes back. New money often creates a false sense of intelligence. People confuse success in one area with mastery in all areas. They stop listening. They stop asking. They stop doubting. Because confidence feels justified. But wisdom never rushes. Wisdom pauses. Wisdom questions. Wisdom respects complexity. And wisdom is usually quiet. That's why you'll often find the loudest people in the room are the newest to power. They're not grounded yet. This is also why newly rich environments tend to breed distrust. People watch each other. They test loyalty. They compete silently. Because when identity is built on money, relationships turn transactional. Everyone becomes an asset or a threat. And this is where danger truly lives. Not in money itself, but in untrained authority. Because money gives access. Money gives influence. Money gives reach. And when influence meets insecurity, manipulation often follows. Not always maliciously, but consistently. Real wealth understands responsibility. It knows money is a tool, not a personality. It knows power is borrowed, not owned. It knows respect can't be purchased, only earned. That understanding only comes with time, with failure, with humility, with restraint. In the next episode, we'll talk about power more deeply. How money doesn't change people. It reveals them. how authority exposes flaws that discipline would have hidden, and why quiet power is the only kind that lasts. If money came tomorrow, would it sharpen you or expose you? Power reveals character. Money doesn't change you, it exposes you. Power doesn't corrupt, it reveals. It removes friction, it removes resistance, it removes the need to explain yourself. And when the pressure disappears, whatever is underneath comes forward. Before power, people are polite. Before power, people listen. Before power, people compromise, because they have to. But after power arrives, there's a choice. Either discipline replaces pressure, or ego replaces restraint. This is why money doesn't suddenly turn good people bad. It simply stops hiding what was already there. If someone respected others before money, they respect them after. If someone cut corners before money, they cut deeper after. If someone needed control before money, they demand obedience after. True power is quiet. It doesn't need to announce itself. It doesn't threaten. It doesn't dominate conversations, because it knows it doesn't need permission. False power, on the other hand, is loud. It interrupts, it flexes, it reminds people who's in charge, not out of strength, but out of fear of being challenged. One of the clearest signs of untrained power is disrespect. Disrespect for time, disrespect for boundaries, disrespect for people who can't offer something in return. Because when power hasn't been earned slowly, empathy doesn't develop alongside it. And here's the danger most people underestimate. Power without self-awareness creates entitlement. Entitlement erases accountability. And without accountability, honesty becomes optional. People begin to believe rules are for others. Truth becomes flexible. Promises become suggestions, not because they're villains, but because no one corrects them anymore. Real power welcomes limits. It invites feedback. It listens when challenged. It understands that leadership is responsibility, not privilege. That's why the most powerful people often feel the least threatened. They don't need to crush disagreement. They've already mastered themselves. There's a reason history is filled with leaders who collapsed under their own authority. Not because power was heavy, but because their character was light. Power tests patience. Power tests humility. Power tests integrity. And it never tests quietly. This is why pretending to be powerful is so dangerous, because it attracts people who worship authority and repels people who value truth. And when no one tells you the truth anymore, you stop seeing yourself clearly. In the next episode, we're going to talk about something personal for many people: the circles you attract when you fake success. Why pretending creates shallow relationships, why real people leave early, and why fake environments eventually collapse. Ask yourself this: if you had absolute power tomorrow, who would you become when no one could stop you? The cost of fake circles: who you attract when you pretend. Every version of you attracts a different circle. Not the version you claim to be, the version you consistently live. When you fake success, you don't just lie to the world. You filter your environment. You invite people who value appearance. You repel people who value truth. And over time, that choice compounds. Fake success attracts people who are watching, not supporting. People who measure you. People who compare. People who quietly hope you fail so they feel balanced again. Because fake environments breed competition, not collaboration. When everything is about image, relationships become strategic. People ask, what can this person do for me? How do they make me look? Are they ahead of me or behind me? Friendship becomes positioning, and trust becomes rare. This is why fake circles feel crowded but lonely. You can't be honest. You can't be vulnerable. You can't admit uncertainty. Because vulnerability threatens the image everyone is protecting. So everyone pretends together. Real people don't stay long in fake rooms. They feel the tension. They sense the competition. They notice the silence when truth enters. So they leave quietly, not with arguments, not with announcements, just distance. And fake success interprets that as jealousy, not as wisdom walking away. This is one of the greatest costs of pretending. You lose access to grounded people. People who would challenge you. People who would protect you from your blind spots. People who would tell you the truth even when it's uncomfortable. Instead, you're left with agreement. And agreement without honesty is dangerous. Fake circles also create false loyalty. People stay close while benefits flow. They disappear when reality tightens. Because they were never connected to you. They were connected to what you represented. Status, access, opportunity. And when the image cracks, as it always does, those relationships collapse fast. No foundation, No forgiveness, no patience, just distance. Real success builds different rooms. Quieter rooms, smaller rooms, rooms where honesty is allowed, rooms where people don't compete with your growth. They protect it. But you can't access those rooms while pretending. Because truth and performance can't coexist. One always suffocates the other. In the final episode, we're going to talk about how to build real wealth, slowly, quietly, and sustainably. Without pretending, without performing, without losing yourself. Pay attention to who stays when nothing is being shown. Those are the people worth keeping. Building real wealth slowly. Real wealth is rarely loud. It doesn't announce itself. It doesn't rush. It doesn't beg to be noticed. Because it doesn't need to be proven. Real wealth is built when no one is watching. In discipline, in repetition, in restraint. It grows in habits, not highlights. The people who last don't chase attention. They chase understanding. They learn before they scale. They fail privately. They correct quietly. They don't confuse movement with progress. Building real wealth requires patience. And patience is uncomfortable. It means being underestimated. It means saying, not yet. It means letting others appear ahead while you prepare. And preparation doesn't photograph well. This is where most people quit. Not because they can't succeed, but because they can't tolerate invisibility. They want results without roots, rewards without responsibility, respect without restraint. But anything built that way collapses under weight. Real wealth respects time. It understands that character must grow alongside capacity. Because money without character becomes a liability. Power without discipline becomes destructive. Influence without integrity becomes dangerous. Quiet confidence comes from alignment. When who you are matches what you do. When your values don't change with opportunity. When your decisions don't depend on applause. That kind of confidence can't be shaken. This is how you avoid fake circles. You move honestly. You grow steadily. You let results speak instead of explaining yourself. You attract people who value substance. And those people don't rush you. The goal was never to look successful. The goal was to be stable. Stable in your identity. Stable in your finances. Stable in your relationships. Stability outlasts hype every time. If there's one thing to remember from this series, let it be this. You don't need to fake anything. You need to build. Slowly, truthfully, intentionally. Because what's real doesn't need defense. And what's built with integrity doesn't need recovery. Thank you for listening. Stay grounded, stay patient, and build something real.